moment I'm on board the Larapinta with the owners, Mr. and Mrs. Peter Mounsey, who have just returned from a very extensive world tour. Just how long have you been away, Peter?
4.5 years now since we left Sydney.
And how much of that time has been spent on the water?
I couldn't say exactly, but in 4.5 years we did spend 6 months in South Africa, quite about an average of 2 weeks in each island that we visited, and we visited many. And then we spent 2 years in England, in London, in the Thames River, and then we spent 6 months in the West Indies. Most of the other time was occupied in sailing and visiting smaller islands.
And there were just the two of you on the boat?
And there has been mainly just the two of us until Leslie got appendicitis in South Africa, and then we were undertaking a voyage of 6,000 miles to England, and as she wasn't quite strong enough for the two of us to do this voyage from Cape Town to England, we took a young Australian lad that had sailed to South Africa in another yacht. He sailed from Cape Town to England with us, but otherwise we've been just the two of us all the time.
What was the longest single stretch of water you covered?
The longest stretch was 3,500 miles. That is in the distance that we sailed. The actual rum line would be a distance of about 3,100 miles. It was 35-day passage, and it was quite a good passage for that area as we had to go through the doldrums.
Well, Mrs. Mounsey, you must have done your fair share of sailing this ship then.
Oh yes, you have to when there's only the two of you.
How did you manage to organise it so that there was always someone on duty?
We do 2 hours on and 2 hours off.
Self-steering.
Self-steering too. We have the twin spinnakers and she steers herself a lot of the way.
And so, all in all, it's been quite a relaxing voyage, has it?
At times, yes.
Most of the time it has been more pleasant than it has been unpleasant.
Oh yes.
Did you have any exciting incidents occur?
Well, landfalls are always exciting, but we've had no damage or any unwanted incidents on board as far as the yacht itself is concerned. The most exciting thing and frightening, I think, was when we were on a run from Galapagos to the Marquesas in the Pacific. It's a 3,100 mile hop, and we were sailing fast. We did this voyage in 21 days, which was exceedingly good, but we hit a whale when we were sailing around about 7 knots head on. It stopped us dead, and I thought the masts were going over the side at the time, and we apparently knocked the whale out, and I'm not sure whether it was anti-fouling that discoloured the water or blood from the whale, but he went right alongside the yacht, and his tail was actually turned up by the hull as we slid past him. And I think if he was conscious, he probably would have flicked his tail, and we may not have been here to tell this story anyway. But when we got to the Marquesas and I examined the hull, there was no signs whatsoever of any damage.
Any other major incidents?
No, not really.
Not really. We've planned the voyage pretty carefully, and it's like being a good Boy Scout. If you're prepared, usually things work out pretty well.
Now, what about the catering side of things? How did you get on for food and water?
Well, we carry 12 months supply of food, and we replenish in different ports that we go to, and we always have ample on board. And you can get such a variety in tin food today that you can go for 2 weeks without having the same meal twice.
Well, it sounds as though you've had a really wonderful 4.5 years. What are you planning to do now?
Settle down.
Well, that's what we plan to do, I think. I think we'll probably settle down and have a family, but this sort of thing gets in your blood, and I wouldn't like to say definitely.
We're going to try anyway.
How on earth will you get back to the routine of the kitchen and the washing and the sweeping?
Well, I would like a kitchen with an oven.
Thank you very much indeed, then.
the meeting this afternoon?
Well, our members, they considered the decision of the court quite carefully, and a recommendation from our state executive. The recommendation, of course, was to tell them to resume according to the decision of the court. But they are emphatic that they must continue with their protest against non-unionism.
It seems rather unfair that the religious beliefs of one man, and religious beliefs which have come under some doubt in recent months, should jeopardise the jobs and lives of 50 or more families and men. What's your opinion on this?
Well, we feel very strongly on that. These people come out in the open and say they're good Christian people. But people who have those views and will disrupt the lives of other people through their own, through their beliefs in their own particular sect, well, they're certainly not carrying out the Christian way of life as the majority of the members of our union know it.
Now, the men are going to set up a strike relief fund, have you?
We have put the machinery into operation this afternoon, and we feel quite convinced that we will get the support of all other unions as far as moral and financial support is concerned.
And do you think there's any possibility of the union protesting to the industrial court about this decision?
At this stage, that would be very difficult to state how we can go in the court. The company have already intimated, since I've given them the decision of the men, that.
And do you think that they should sack this bloke Pickard?
Well, I think that would be the way out of it.
Site of the new oil drilling setup, which is just commencing near Maitland, and with me is the Chairman and Managing Director of Planet Oil, Mr. Fuller. Firstly, just what is Planet Oil?
Planet Oil is a public company listed on the Australian stock exchanges. It was formed early this year, and it holds oil exploration concessions in Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria.
And why did you choose this site just out of Maitland?
We have been interested in this particular area for, I would think, about 5 years. We acquired it at the time of the public company's formation, and since then we've carried out seismic surveys which have given us a lot of pleasant surprises, and the well site here is located on a large anticline, and it should, I think, have a very good chance.
Do you feel that you're on a sure thing?
Well, nobody can be on a sure thing in the oil business. It's purely the drilling that finds oil, and all the good geological and geophysical work that we and others have put into their operations don't mean anything until you drill to see what's below.
It's apparent to me that a great deal of money has been and is going to be spent here. How much do you propose to spend in this area?
I would think by the time this well has finished, we will have spent about £250,000 on the seismic surveys and in this area and the drilling of this well.
How far down do you think you're going to have to go to find oil?
Well, I would say there's chances from 2,500 feet down, and we don't expect to drill deeper than 8,000 feet.
How much do you think you're going to have to find to make it a commercial proposition?
Well, it would probably a 50 barrel a day well in this area would be a good proposition. The word commercial is one that has become purely a political word in Australia and doesn't mean very much anymore. But I would think a 50 barrel a day well would be very profitable if we found one here, and of course other wells around it to constitute an oil field.
Now here's Planet's drilling superintendent, Mr. Fergus Crawford. Mr. Crawford, you've been associated with oil exploration for quite a long time.
Yes, I've been in this business since 1928.
Mm-hmm.
I Roma born. I started in the boom there in 1928, and went overseas and joined a major oil company in 1937. And since then I've worked in Papua, in Borneo, Trinidad, Nigeria, and latterly in New Zealand.
You had some success in New Zealand, didn't you?
Yes, the first well we drilled in Taranaki for these companies was a big gas producer.
Well, from your knowledge, what do you think of the prospects here?
Well, from what we know from the seismic survey, I think the prospects are very good.
Could you tell us something now about the rig you'll be using?
Yes, the rig itself is a standard derrick. It's about 168 feet high as it stands. It's the hoisting gear on it, the drawworks, capable of pulling 4.5-inch drill pipe from 11,000 feet. It's powered by 2 diesel engines of 380 horsepower each, and they also drive a large capacity pump which will put out about 800 gallons a minute.
How many men will be employed here?
There'll be about 22 men on the site altogether.
And there's quite a lot of regular testing and checking that has to go on all the way, isn't there?
Yes, that depending on what is.
Strictly correct. They're really worse here in Newcastle than they are in the rest of Australia, but they're really worse than those figures indicate. I know this for a fact because I know Mr. Norbert Wright very well, who is in charge of the Adamstown Clinic. That's the school clinic, and there I know for a fact that of 600 children, exactly 12 of those children had ever had any fillings or any operative preventive work done before.
What, 2%?
2%, yes. 2% of those people. And They're just not interested. I think the public just don't care. They couldn't care less. They just don't bother having their work done.
That's the reason for the low percentage of dental carers?
Well, I think it is. People
Apathy.
just don't care. Yes, I think so.
And what can we do about it?
Well, we have a national foundation going now. The dentists have founded this. It's not in operation yet. We're still looking for a new director. But the dentists themselves in New South Wales have raised something like £300,000, and this will be devoted to public health education.
Not dentists?
No, not dentists. Oh, well, it will be allocated, some of it, for research work by dentists who will go overseas, and overseas men will come here in preventive dentistry, but the main function is public health education.
And does this include the advocacy of fluoridation?
Oh, my word, yes.
You think we need it?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. We do need it.
Well, boys and girls, as you can see, we're down a coal mine today, and we'll get one of the coal miners here at John Darling Colliery, which is near Belmont, not far away from Newcastle, to tell us something about his job of a coal miner. And it's Jack Hunter, that's right, isn't it? Alan Hunter, I'm sorry, Alan Hunter. And how long have you been a coal miner, Alan?
Oh, about 14 years.
And have you been always in this pit?
3 months at Burwood.
Mm-hmm. That's not far away from here either, is it?
No.
What were you doing then, by the way? That's an electric drill that you're using, wasn't it?
Yes, boring holes to put powder in to break the coal down, be filled out.
I see you actually blast this type of coal, do you? So you once you get a toe hole in with the drill there, you blast this out and then chip her out.
I bore the hole drill, like we're facing, and then you fill it up with powder, or the amount of powder required, blow it down.
Mm-hmm. Now, you must be quite happy with the job as a coal miner, be doing it the number of years you have. What decided you to be a coal miner in the first place?
Oh, it went right through the family. My father, 2 brothers who work in the mine here, and I just sort of followed suit.
I see. Are there any particular parts of it? I mean, you're not just all coal miners, you've all got certain special jobs to do, and you all know a certain thing. Is that right?
Yes, there's lots of different jobs in the mine. Like there's the fitters, electricians, deputies, shot bars, machine drivers, and you've got just like your general shift on it around the mine that do all the timbering, different jobs like that.
And you've just timbered this piece up here, have you, to make it safe? I noticed that the coal is black, of course, here, but above us and further off in the dark, it's white. Now, you obviously put something on that. What is it?
That's stone dust.
And what's the idea of that?
Well, that's in case of an explosion, stone dust mitigates into the air and extinguishes any flame that's there.
How far below ground are we at the moment?
Oh, roughly 600 feet.
And this is fairly shallow working, though, isn't it, for this pit?
Yeah, this is the top seam. There's one below this, it's 900.
That's the deepest one?
Yes.
And how far out does this go? It starts just near Belmont. I think everybody knows where John Darling Colliery is located. But where do the tunnels go off to? Do they go as far as perhaps Redhead in the sea?
This one up the top end here would go as to Redhead, or close enough to Redhead, to the boundary of the old Redhead mine. And down the south, it goes down as far as the station.
Now, you've been working as a miner for 13 years, and in that time there's been a lot of changes in coal mining methods. Mechanisation has come in.
Oh, yeah.
Are you in favour of this?
Oh, well, it makes everything lighter for the men, but as far as employment goes, well, it's cut a lot of men down.
But do you find that the job of mining coal is now easier?
Oh, yes, a lot easier.
It's not quite a dirty job as it used to be.
No.
Now, in the old days, you'd be chipping away at this with a pickaxe, I suppose, wouldn't you?
Yeah, with a pick. Fire it down, then fill it back with a shovel.
What other mechanisation methods have come in? I notice you've got rails running everywhere here, and this has always been part of a coal mine, though, hasn't it?
Well, actually, the machines don't run on rails now. They run on their trackless, like caterpillar tracks, or tyres. It's filled by a loader into like a shuttle car, then it's filled onto a conveyor belt and brought to the pit bottom.
The main coal face is some distance away from where we are, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
The reason for that is that with the lights that we needed to get our film, it would be a little bit dangerous. That's correct, isn't it?
That's right. For gas reasons. Gas in there, like methane or fire damp, they call it. High explosive, like very explosive if there's any heat there.
Being fairly close to the shaft and the surface here, I suppose there's enough air circulating to stop that.
A little bit too much for me.
A little
bit
cool.
cold.
It gets warmer further down.
Oh yes, very warm. Especially in the borehole, right down the bottom seam.
Well, what are the prospects for a young fellow entering the trade at the moment to be a coal miner? Are they good or bad or what?
Well, actually, they're not taking young people into the coal mine now as they did when I was first started. But they do have training courses where a youngster can go to college and become a manager. Or we can either go further than that, a surveyor or anything like that.
So the idea is that you learn this trade by bookwork to a certain extent.
Instead of the old days, they used to learn it right from the bottom, from a wheeler, miner and all that sort of thing. Well, now they just start and they go through college and finish up as a manager or a surveyor or whatever field they take.
You in favour of this idea?
Oh, yes, I know. The experience men, in my opinion, were the better men. But the way things have changed today, well, like coal mining can be done in a book.
Just a last question. What type of coal is this here? Is this good quality coal?
This is coking coal.
And this is used for what?
It's sent to the BHP where it's I think the gas and coke off it. Tar or pitch and...
So it's indirectly used in making steel. Well, thank you very much for spending a few minutes. I think it's just about knock-off time for you, isn't it?
Yes.
They work a day shift here, by the way, boys and girls, which finishes around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And today we met a coal miner to find out about his job, Alan Hunter. Many thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time, Alan.
Yeah.
Signing off now from John Darling Colliery. Yeah. Well, today, boys and girls, we're taking on board a bus, one of the government transport buses here in Newcastle, which operate from the depots, including the Hamilton depot, and we're going to find out about the job of a bus driver. I'd like you to meet our bus driver today, Alf Swadling. Now, Alf, how long have you been driving buses?
About 30 years.
All the time with the government transport?
About 29 years.
And what were you doing before that?
I was driving for private enterprise.
Now, have you been driving all the time the government buses have been operating in Newcastle then?
Yes, I've been driving the full time. I started as a permanent driver and I've been driving ever since.
I wonder if we might take a few minutes of your time and find out something about your job there. I believe you've got a few minutes before you go off in your next run, so perhaps if you'd like to turn off the motor and we'll have a bit of a chat here. Now, I understand, Alf, that you are also something of an instructor at the moment, a
Yes.
part-time instructor, is that right?
Yes, I do the instructing for the government.
Well, how do you become a bus driver? Do you just sort of hop in and say, right, I'd like to become a bus driver, teach me how to do it?
No, you must start off as a conductor, unless, of course, the government takes over a private enterprise, then they have permanent drivers. Well, they give them a job as driving if they can pass their tests, medical and ability on the wheel.
So if a boy or a man wants to become a bus driver, first of all, they must become a bus conductor.
Yes, they must become a bus conductor, and they're also trained. They get 3 days training before they go out on their own.
Now, every so often, I suppose, when you get a bit short of bus drivers, you start training a few more. Is that the idea?
Yes, we train. There is 10 going through very shortly. They're starting to, with retirement and new holidays coming up. Well, they need more drivers, and therefore I've got 10 to teach in the near future.
How much will you teach them? I suppose these men are ordinary drivers. They can drive a car, so I suppose there's something towards it. How do you go then? How much training do you actually give them?
About 62 hours they get all told. If they don't come up to the required test, well then the government extends their lessons for so long. They get 12 hours.
The 62 hours is actual driving time, isn't it, behind the wheel?
Yeah, except for 2 hours. They do so many hours mechanical instructions, and then one of those 62 hours is for tests.
With all your years of driving, I think that you must like the job.
Oh yes, I like driving very much. Actually, I like being associated with the public. You meet some fine people on your run, different routes, and you more or less become friendly. They get to know you, and I like it rather well. I didn't take my promotions for that reason. I could have been higher up in the government. I could have been an inspector, but
You prefer to keep on
prefer
driving?
to keep on driving, yes.
Now, you were one of the first bus drivers here in Newcastle to actually drive when the government buses came here. What was the route then?
105 was the first bus run that was ever taken over in Newcastle.
That's from Mayfield, isn't it?
Mayfield to Newcastle, yes.
Well, things have spread quite a bit since then as more suburbs come on. About how many bus routes are there around Newcastle at the moment?
There'd be close to 200, approximately 200.
And at the Hamilton depot, how many buses would you have based here?
We'd have near enough, I'd say, to 200 buses.
What are some of the unusual, interesting things that happen to a bus driver? In all your years of driving, I suppose there must have been quite a lot of happenings out of the ordinary that you may remember?
Yes, you can get some funny incidents happen at times. It's a bit hard to recall some of them.
Passengers that are hard to get on with, perhaps?
You do strike occasionally a passenger that's hard to get on with. I find 90 or 95% of the public very decent to get on with. It's just that 5% that sometimes get on the bus and they're a little bit annoyed about having to wait for a bus or something's upset them. But you can generally get over that difficulty by not saying too much and siding with them a bit.
These bus drivers in Newcastle, would they stick to, say, a route, say, from here to Belmont, or would they go on all the bus routes?
Oh, no, you change over. You may come in from Swansea and then go straight out to Spears Point or 105 or any different route. You do different routes all the time.
This would mean that any bus driver and every bus driver here in Newcastle could, at a minute's notice sort of thing, hop onto a bus and take it out to wherever it had to go.
Oh yes, you've got to be conversed with all runs, and just what they do. Some runs that might coming out of town in the afternoon have different signs on them. Well, that's all provided on rosters and all that to let us know. That is a very big job, in my opinion, on this job, and that's rostering purposes.
Getting the right people on the right buses in the right spot.
Yes, oh yes, it's a big thing. They've got to work the awards and all that, and it's quite a big job.
Well, thank you very much, Alf, for giving us a few minutes of your time here, and we'll send you off on the rest of your way now. We've met this afternoon in the My Jog segment a bus driver in Newcastle, Alf Swadling. And Alf, apart from being a bus driver, is also the instructor at the Hamilton Depot here in Newcastle, and I'm sure you're interested to find out about his job.